Broly, get to see Kakarot again? Hey guys, MasakoX here. Today we are going to Brolyville, population Kakarot. What once started off as just a gag what if for April Fools of this year, it actually turned out to have a bit of a cult following that people just wanted to see continue and not have to wait for another year. All this down to its bolder slant on the standard practices for what ifs that we do on this channel. And since it was birthed on the day of escapades, then I just thought, well, you know, we can still adhere to those rules. We can have a little bit of leeway with this one, have a bit of fun. And hey, bringing Broly into the canon world of Dragon Ball? We did it first. So, suck on that, movie. Actually, don't suck on that movie. We want you to come out. Please come out to the UK. Please, 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 please! If you couldn't tell, today we're exploring what if Broly turned good. It may seem like a bold statement to some people, but actually, it turned out to be a rather interesting prospect if you went at it at a particular way though. And especially when you take into consideration that we're getting rid of the majority of movie 10, that god-awful movie, Second Coming. Yeah. It's a good thing I've not watched it in its entirety. I mean, I've seen clips, and based off that, as well as what everyone else thinks, I really don't want to see it. But, you know, I do have this, so, watch along video, let me know down in the comments if you want that. Now, before we continue, I must reiterate, this what if is a little bit more loose than the other what ifs, so we're just thinking about Broly turning good in a much looser way. But the odds of Broly becoming a good guy in the actual Dragon Ball lore is about as likely as Sword Art Online getting a third season. That being said, there were elements in Movie 10's plot from what I could gather that, if done properly and had the usual narrative solutions, could have birthed something rather interesting and much like the Iron Giant. You know, with Broly getting amnesia from all of that travel, being encased in ice, suffering massive head trauma, kinda like another Saiyan that we're aware of. With Goten initially taking him in, and the rest of the Saiyans and the rest of the Z-Warriors then starting to think, well, he may be not that bad after all, you know, eventually trusting him, it may lead to some very interesting opportunities for the young Saiyan, because remember, he's still relatively young. He could rebuild his mind and change everything in his life. Gone were the days of his childhood, where he'd have to scour the universe and the galaxies with his father, trying to contain all of that hidden power that obviously they couldn't. With a master in the form of Vegeta, the very son of the man who tried to actually take his life when he was a baby, as was Doom his father, Broly in effect had become the replacement for Goku, who had decided after the very truncated end of the Buu saga to just stay dead, you know? There's no point coming back, since Broly literally blew a hole right through the prospective Buu saga, as was Buu's sealed ball. Ooh. Yeah, that was something. We continue the story after the Buu saga with Broly being properly integrated into life around Capsule Corp, effectively becoming Trunks' bigger brother. And he's very much like an Android 16 figure in terms of stature as well as his placid nature. Yeah, because Broly is a big boy. He even managed to find an interest in martial arts. He got all of this interest not from the prince, but from the many walks he takes around West City. He would walk around the parks and see people taking Tai Chi and wanting to really get into it, but not really having the courage to actually go up there and ask, can Broly join in the class too? Eventually, he'd realize that Master Roshi and Krillin are very much into martial arts as well as meditation and stuff like that. I think he would very much go to Kame House and ask Master Roshi to help him learn the basics. In that manner, Broly would much become like Goku in terms of embracing martial arts into his culture and life instead of just relying to brutish tactics of just basic punches. In the 4 years between the end of the Buu saga and the beginning of Super, Broly has now pretty much recovered his mind entirely on a diet of senzu beans and, you know, basic peacetime. He's even managed to find a job at Capsule Corp as a courier because, you know, he can fly. He's really quick like that. I mean, that is when he isn't being trained by Vegeta. Speaking of Vegeta, sure enough, all of this training with someone who is quite strong, almost as equally as strong, has actually paid dividends for Vegeta. He is much stronger than he was at the beginning of Super in the original story. That being said, we gotta turn our attention to the Son family, because right now, they're feeling pretty dejected because, you know, Goku, when he had the chance to come back, decided to stay dead. So that's a real kick in the teeth. You know, despite all of the peril that we saw with Babidi and Deborah thinking, Even with Goku not around, there was trouble, and that was the reason why he chose to stay dead. So it wouldn't matter which way he was. Oh, none of that compelled to Goku, so he decided to go back to the afterlife and perfect his Super Saiyan 3 power in secret. But that being said, it does mean that he has been able to master the Super Saiyan 3 power, thanks to the limitless well of power in the afterlife, and he can now use it with very little stamina being used. So it's kind of like a perfected Super Saiyan 3. Apart from those things I just mentioned, things are relatively similar to what they are in Super, right up to the point when Beerus arrives on Earth and actually wakes up, trying to find the Super Saiyan God. As can be expected, Beerus can pretty much go wherever he wants in Universe 7, so he ends up going to King Kai's world and finding Goku through the prophecy and all that, like in the original, so that doesn't change. He is able to find Goku as the potential Saiyan candidate that might be the Super Saiyan God that he dreamt about just a few minutes ago. Despite being stronger now than he was in the original story, Goku is still no match for Beerus. Yeah, he was able to be defeated in 2 punches, let's just say maybe, 4. He's still whomped by the kitty cat, who then goes off to find more Saiyans on Earth, and this is when Goku realizes that, yeah, I better go back to Earth. So he has to try and hatch a plan to get back there using the rules that are supplied to him. Things cannot be good if Beerus is after Saiyans, and Goku wasn't able to take him down. On the matter of Earth, Beerus arrives on the same day as Bulma's birthday party, like in the original story. He does the usual thing of degrading Vegeta, telling him he's useless, Vegeta being scared, and then Bulma finding them all and asking Beerus to take part in the festivities because it involves food, so of course the kitty cat's not going to say no. The only thing I'm going to be destroying today is the buffet selection. Come along, Whis. Broly then spots Beerus, but he doesn't put 2 and 2 together. Had he not received amnesia and he still turned good, he might have been aware of Beerus thanks to all of the things that Paragus might have been mentioning. Paragus might have been aware of Beerus because he was part of King Vegeta's court. Everyone would have known about Beerus. But since Broly doesn't remember everything, when he sees Beerus, he doesn't really twig that this was basically the guy who doomed Planet Vegeta. That nugget of information is lost to him, unfortunately. One big thing in Goku's favour, though, is that there is no Majin Buu to spoil the party. Without the big pink blob, Beerus is able to get his fill on pudding entirely. Thusly, his time spent at Bulma's birthday party before Goku arrives to try and save the day is pretty amiable, and he gets on with everyone because, you know, he's getting food and he loves the food. In fact, the food is so good that he forgets about the Super Saiyan God entirely. That is until said Saiyan that he fought earlier arrives to try and get his revenge. Wait, Masako, how exactly did he do this? Well, it's all down to thanks to the heavenly world of Dragon Ball, what they love, technicalities. Since Goku went home a little earlier back in the Buu saga, he hadn't used all of his 24 hours up, so he went to fortune teller Baba, who then agreed to take him back for a few hours so he could save the day. And then when they realized that Beerus was about to destroy the only planet that had beings that could protect Universe 7 from the likes of evildoers, then, you know, this was a high priority. King Yama just fast-tracked that one. The Saiyan is extremely perplexed as to why the God of Destruction hadn't destroyed Earth yet or hadn't taken anyone on yet, but everyone else is even more mystified as to why Goku just suddenly showed up. He hadn't been planning an announcement or anything, or coming. They thought he was basically dead until they wished him back with the Dragon Balls, which was never. Goku shouts out to Beerus that he isn't done yet with the fighting that they had, and he's ready for round 2. Vegeta then runs up to Goku and just tries to get him to calm down, trying to say that Beerus isn't here to do anything bad. But all of this is distracting Beerus from food, thus making him agitated. Meanwhile, Broly is very conflicted in terms of emotions. He's extremely happy to see Kakarot again, but at the same time, he's confused as to why Vegeta is being so cautious because he's never cautious, so yeah, Broly is very, very perplexed and puzzled and all the other hyperboles that denote confusion. Beerus is getting extremely annoyed with Vegeta and Goku bickering, so he slaps the pair of them trying to knock some sense into each other because he's getting very, very frustrated, and oops, he better not have done that. This angers Broly, and we all know what happens when Broly gets angry. He shouts, "Kakarot!" and goes big. And after all of the training that he's done with Vegeta, he's able to control this legendary power better than ever. But right now, 2 of his friends are in trouble, so he must do something. Broly lets out a massive, mighty roar that catches Beerus' attention for a nanosecond. Then when Whis is looking up from all the food that he's eating, he recognizes Broly, the big legendary beast, and goes like, isn't that the being that tried to destroy South Galaxy all those years ago? Huh. Neat. and then goes back to his food. Broly's power is now maximum once more, and he then launches an attack on Beerus which actually connects quite effectively. It then sends Beerus spiraling into the air before Broly unleashes an Omega Blaster right in Beerus' direction. It envelops Beerus, singeing his clothing, but otherwise leaving the God of Destruction relatively unscathed. This gets Beerus thinking, I see this power. Might this Saiyan be the actual Super Saiyan God, and not that little time waster over there? The cat powers up a little to see whether his theory is right, and engages in much more combat, using about, 10% of his power. Oh dear. Okay, yeah, Broly goes down like them. Oh well, false alarm. You see, the thing with God Ki being untraceable, Broly couldn't get a handle on the being's power, so he just went in hell for leather, was reckless, and therefore, he was done for. He's been used to fighting Vegeta, who has Ki, and then fighting someone who doesn't. Yeah. As that fight's been going on, Goku and Vegeta are trying to figure out what on earth they're going to do. Pure strength isn't going to be able to win this battle, so they're trying to think, well, he's going on about Super Saiyan Gods, they don't really know anything about them, who might know? Shenron? To do so, Vegeta gets in the way of the fight of Beerus and Broly, and says to Beerus that they might be able to find the Super Saiyan God after all. Since Beerus was mildly entertained by this big brute fighting him, as well as seeing Vegeta groveling much like his father, he is more willing to actually comply with this request, because, he's not as angry as he was in the Battle of Gods movie and arc. Everyone wishes on the dragon and they find out about the Super Saiyan God ritual. They need 6 Saiyans in order to enact it, and luckily for them this time, they do have 6 Saiyans, and thusly Videl's pregnancy remains a secret. Well, a secret to everyone except Dende. The ritual goes off without a hitch because Broly's heart is purified over the years of recovery. Goku then becomes a Super Saiyan God, has his fight with Beerus, but it does yield better results than in the original. This is all thanks to Goku's much more intense and less interrupted training whilst he was in the afterlife. It means that Beerus has to use more of his power to actually fend off Goku in the Super Saiyan God form. Even when the Saiyan falls down to Super Saiyan, he still has to use more power. The fighter is actually a challenge for Beerus, and he has to use about 80% of his power instead of the allotted 70, as was actually sourced in the original. This leaves Beerus even more passionate than he was before. This mortal, who's only just discovered God Ki, could actually give him a run for his money? Him! A god of destruction, perfecting his craft over hundreds of thousands of years, and then this guy just comes along and almost beats him. And had that other being become the Super Saiyan God, then he might have been able to actually beat Beerus, and he can't be having that. He's got to make sure that these guys are on his side. Having a mortal best a god of destruction, it'd be total anarchy. So in that regard, the cat got extremely lucky. He calls a halt to the proceedings and says to them all that he's not done with them yet, and once he returns, he will figure out what he's going to do with them. And with that, Whis whisks him away, takeout in hand, and everyone collapses to the ground, tired as hell. Once everyone's been able to recover a little bit, Broly looks to Kakarot and asks him the big question. Are you going to be coming back to us, Kakarot? Goku looks to everyone, and then up to the sky where Beerus had just been. He nods and says, yeah, I'm coming back. And this is only because there is a bigger challenge in the real world other than the afterlife, so he thinks that he can come back. It's time to gather the Namekian Dragon Balls, and that's where we're going to leave things right now. With Broly's inclusion in the story, Beerus' introduction into the group is much more cordial and less disruptive than it was with Majin Buu there because, pudding. Plus it means that everyone in the Saiyan party becomes stronger, including Goku. All of this extra muscle is rubbed off on everyone else, I think, too, so that's kinda cool. So what do you guys think? Do you like how Broly is placed in this story? Do you think he will affect the upcoming arcs? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Until the next one, be sure to like and subscribe. Catch you later!